He gives to Jordan. Jordan to the circle, puts the shot in the air. Good! The game's over, and the Bulls.
I'm convinced Michael Jordan hacked into the basketball database and turned himself into a demigod. You're not supposed to be that good in the playoffs. He won a three-peat, retired, and won another three-peat. He never lost in the finals. He never had a Game 7 in the finals. He completely dominated the league for a whole decade. The Chicago Bulls quite literally stomped over any competition in the 90s. Michael Jordan was beyond phenomenal in the postseason. I'm convinced we'll never see another playoff performer like Michael Jordan. Or have we? What about that one guy who came back 3-1 in the finals to quite possibly the most talented team of all time? Yeah, that LeBron James guy. That one guy who carried a team full of crackheads to the finals. The guy who made it to the NBA Finals 8 years in a row. The guy who carried a team of nobodies to the finals as a 22-year-old. Yeah, that LeBron James dude. He was pretty good also. But who was better in the playoffs? With factoring in variables like stats, awards, competition they played, who they had on their team, and of course, winning. Who can we really say was the better playoff performer? If you really break it down, this is a really loaded question. There's so many different small nuances that affect the answer to this question. Within the last couple weeks, I uploaded 2 videos. The first one titled, Who Played Against Harder Playoff Competition? And the other titled, The Harsh Truth About Who Had More Help. Little did anyone know, those videos were actually build-up videos to the one right here. Some of these sub-questions of who is a better playoff performer, I thought required special attention to. Once again, I'm going to touch upon these topics and others. This video is going to be broken down into multiple subsections. Basic stats, advanced stats, playoff competition, team help, winning, and legacy. Hopefully these 6 categories help to fully break down and answer this debate. Let's start this off by looking at the 2 players' regular stats in the playoffs. The stats that everyone's familiar with. As we can see, Jordan wins the points and steals categories. LeBron wins the rebounding, assists, and field goal percentage category. And they both tie with 0.9 blocks. All this really proves is MJ and LeBron play different roles. Michael Jordan on the Bulls was the main motor for scoring the basketball. The team was relying on him to score more than LeBron's team would rely on him. You could also argue that Michael Jordan was a better and more willing defender, especially on the perimeter. LeBron James obviously played a different role than MJ. LeBron has more of an all-around game. Obviously, you're going to still get great scoring out of him, but you're also going to get a lot more rebounding and playmaking from LeBron than you would from MJ. LeBron's teams required him to not only just score the ball, but to fulfill other duties like getting boards and playmaking in order for him and his teams to be successful. These numbers show that both players were indeed individually great in the playoffs, but they played differently. Let's take it a step farther and look at both players' advanced numbers. Advanced numbers are great because they really tell which player was more efficient, productive, effective, and overall valuable on the floor. They really read in between the lines where normal stats can't. Michael Jordan wins PER, win shares per 48, and box plus minus, while LeBron wins value over replacement per year and true shooting percentage. Value over replacement is more of a longevity stat in the playoffs. Typically, if you play more playoff games in a year, you'll rack up more points. I think this perfectly explains why LeBron wins that stat. LeBron has played a lot of playoff games and has won a lot of them. LeBron has a higher true shooting percentage because not only does he take more closer shots, but he's also bigger and stronger than MJ, which really helps him to finish through contact better. Most advanced metrics would point towards Michael Jordan being the better basketball player. He was on average more productive, efficient, and valuable as a player than LeBron was. Next, we're going to look at the various playoff competition Jordan and LeBron faced. It's no secret that both legends faced tremendous playoff competition on their way to achieving championship, but who really faced more challenging competition? In the previous video I made about this topic about 3 weeks ago, I used the numbers from the All-Stars that MJ and LeBron played. This way of finding it out was alright, but I think we can do better. There's a stat on Basketball Reference called Simple Rating Score. It's a way to rank teams based off their margin of victory combined with their strength of schedule. I think this is a way better way to judge the level of a team Jordan and LeBron played against in the playoffs. I think these numbers perfectly sum up this debate. As we can see by this graph right here, I compiled the average scores of teams from each series of this postseason. As we can see, Jordan mostly dominates this. Michael Jordan won every category but the NBA Finals. Jordan absolutely blows LeBron out of the water on the first round competition. Michael Jordan beat LeBron James by more than 2 points. According to this data, MJ had 8 times more difficult first round competition than Bron. I don't know about all that, but MJ certainly played more difficult teams in the first round. In the beginning of MJ's career, he was unfortunate enough to play the 80s Celtics multiple times in the first round. Around this time, he also played great teams like the Bucks and even the Cavs. LeBron never had to go up against the Dynasty several times in the first round. Anyways, Michael Jordan also had a higher score in both the conference semifinals and the conference finals. Jordan had some historically tough competition in his own conference. Throughout the early parts of Jordan's career, he faced difficulties. It took Jordan 4 years just to get past the bad boy Pistons in the second round in conference finals. He played other quality teams in these rounds like the Cavs, Knicks, Magic, and more. When looking at LeBron's second round in conference finals competition, it just isn't at the same level. For the majority of LeBron's career, he played in the Eastern Conference, which has been considerably weaker than Jordan's East. LeBron played teams like the Big Three Celtics, the Jeff Teague and Al Horford Hawks, the Paul George Pacers, the Lowry and DeRozan Raptors, and more. By no means were these teams bad, but I don't think they compared to some of the teams that Jordan faced. Now let's look at the competition in the finals. I think to no surprise here, LeBron had more competition here. LeBron for 4 straight years had to play against one of the best dynasties of all time. LeBron also had to play against the Tim Duncan Spurs in the finals multiple times, another great dynasty. When you look at MJ's finals competition, you're not really wowed by any of these teams he played. Sure, the Trailblazers, the Supersonics, the Jazz, and aging Showtime Lakers were all really good teams, but not to the level of the Splash Brothers and Golden State. Finally, we're going to look at the average competition per series. As we can see, Jordan tops LeBron in this area. When you look at Jordan's career playoff competition, what really stands out to you is the teams he played in the East. Jordan's main struggles in his playoff career have been through teams in his own conference. Teams like the Larry Bird Celtics, the Bad Boy Pistons, are the only teams that can really say they got the better of Jordan. With LeBron, it's a similar but quite opposite story. Although LeBron had his share and even more of playoff challenges, his competition really came from the NBA Finals, not in his own conference. Jordan never had to play against one of the most unstoppable offenses of all time. Michael Jordan never had to slay the dragon LeBron did, but at the same time, Michael Jordan's Bulls were the dragon that the rest of the NBA was trying to slay. Despite Jordan and LeBron facing different postseason competition, they still both faced tremendously difficult teams on the way to achieving their successes, but I would tend to lean Jordan's way. Another huge sub-question when talking about the postseason success is who had more help on their teams. Basketball is a team sport. One guy can't win a championship for you. Obviously, it took help from a whole unit of guys for Jordan and LeBron to achieve their postseason success. So let's really break it down. Who had more help? To really get a firm grip on the amount of support each player had, we're going to take a look at some numbers and charts, as I love to do. First, we're going to use SRS, the same metric we used in the last part, to determine whose teams were better. As we can see, Michael Jordan throughout his career has had higher highs but lower lows in terms of team success. LeBron's numbers have stayed more consistent throughout the years. So does this mean that Jordan's Bulls had more help, or was Michael Jordan just that impactful? Well, let's look at some more stats. Let's look at the win shares of Jordan and LeBron compared to the amount of wins each player's team got over the years. The chart showed that MJ contributed more wins to his teams than LeBron did. Michael Jordan's production has had a very strong correlation with the Bulls' success as a team. But the same isn't true for LeBron. There's really no correlation of individual win shares and team wins. We also see the same trend from the last graph also appear on here. Jordan's Bulls had a higher ceiling but a lower floor, and LeBron's teams were more consistent. Next, we're going to look at a graph showing how well their teams would have done without Jordan or LeBron. So if you hypothetically took MJ or Bron off the squad, how well would they do? This is done by subtracting the individual win shares by the team wins. Both MJ and LeBron's teams were very dependent on them for wins. Without them, for many of the years, their teams would have been average at best. However, as both of them progressed in their careers, their teams were able to generate enough production to win considerable amounts of games without them. The final graph we're going to look at is contributions. This is done by dividing the win shares by actual games won. For Jordan, his teams really relied on his contributions to win ball games. but as his teams got better, he was relied on less to win. A similar story is true for LeBron, but just not as drastically. Over the years, MJ has typically contributed more to his teams. So what do all these numbers mean? Who had more help? Both of these legends had little to no help in the beginning of their careers. However, as they progressed in their careers, they slowly but surely gained the help they needed. I think if you look at it from the great players that they played with, LeBron would be your obvious answer. LeBron has played with 15 All-Stars of various different sizes, abilities, and play styles. LeBron has definitely had more firepower on his teams, but people tend to overlook the help that MJ had. The help that MJ had wasn't really the flashiest, but it more than got the job done. MJ was not only coached by one of the greatest coaches of all time in Phil Jackson, but Jordan got a system built around him with guys that played key roles to help the Bulls win championships. There's a reason why MJ never needed to leave the Bulls. Everything he needed was built around him. However, this case isn't the same with LeBron. LeBron spent his first 7 years with a team that couldn't build a contending roster around him to save his life. LeBron had to scavenge his way from team to team to be on a championship level roster. LeBron had way worse coaches than MJ ever had. Although LeBron has had his history of super team rosters, he's also had a mix of terrible rosters with pretty much incompetent teammates around him. Although LeBron has probably had more talented rosters in his career, Michael Jordan has also had exceptional help. It just wasn't as flashy. I don't think there's any better way to show who played better in the playoffs than to actually look at who won. Is that not the point of the underlying question? As you guys are all probably aware, Michael Jordan has won 6 rings compared to LeBron's 4. Not only has MJ won more championships, but he was also far more efficient in doing so. Throughout both of their careers, LeBron played in 50 playoff series, Jordan played in 37. Michael Jordan has a playoff winning percentage of 81%, while LeBron has a winning percentage of 78%. Throughout both of their careers, Michael Jordan had 6 finals appearances while winning 6 championships. However, LeBron had 10 finals appearances but only won 4 championships. Does it really matter how many times you make it to the finals if you still have less rings than the man who made it less? Does the longevity of LeBron's playoff excellence really matter if he couldn't convert it to championship wins? They say that history is written by the winners. Come 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now, are they really going to think about the teams that almost won the championships? Are they really going to nitpick excuses for LeBron's losses? Are people really going to care about these excuses? Are people really going to bring up the fact that he had to play 2 of the greatest dynasties of all time in the Duncan Spurs and the Curry Warriors? There's no doubt that LeBron will be remembered in basketball greatness as an individual player, but who are they going to remember more, the LeBron Cavs or the Curry Warriors? That's what I thought. Michael Jordan doesn't have this dilemma. He achieved more playoff success in a shorter amount of time. He'll forever be remembered as individually the greatest of greats. His team's success in this sport called basketball will never be forgotten. Jordan completely dominated a whole generation of talent. He's the reason why there are countless 90s superstars without rings to show for it. No one will forget the impact Jordan brought. History is written by the winners, not the almost. Although I kinda just ripped LeBron into shreds, I think he might be one of the unluckiest players of all time. LeBron James, throughout the majority of his career, has gotten the short end of the stick. He may have one of the ugliest playoff legacies of all time. LeBron James, throughout the first few years, was on a team that couldn't build a championship roster to save his life. Can you really blame LeBron for getting swept in the 2007 finals when his second best player was Larry Hughes? It was really a loss-loss situation for LeBron, because he has to make a choice of either leaving his home state to join a super team or continue to fail in the playoffs with an incapable team. Both options look bad on his legacy. He then spent a large portion of his career playing against quite possibly one of the most dominant dynasties of all time. Of course, you're going to have problems when the team you have to play against has 2 superstars and 4 total all-stars. It's quite close to impossible to beat a squad that's that well calibrated together. Although LeBron has some historically great players on his side, he spent even more time with terrible rosters that have had not so great coaching and just incapable teammates. LeBron has had some of the worst luck of any all-time great, but Michael Jordan is quite the opposite story. The stars really aligned for MJ during his career. Michael Jordan might have the prettiest legacy of all time. At first, he was challenged by many teams like the Bucks, Pistons, and Celtics in the playoffs. As soon as those teams started to decline, MJ took steps into being a proven superstar, and the Bulls added on key players to help them win. especially Scottie Pippen. As soon as Jordan was on top, the Western Conference was relatively weak compared to other years. MJ was able to capitalize on this, going undefeated in the finals. MJ's legacy was perfect. He won 3 titles, retired to play baseball, but to really save his reputation. Came back to the league, won 3 more titles, recognized the team's makeup was going downhill after the 1998 season, so he retired once again. Both of those retirements really saved his playoff legacy. Without those retirements, I don't think MJ would have won in the finals to Houston during the first retirement. After the 1998 season, MJ would have had 2 decisions. Either A, continue to play for the Bulls and have a losing record and lose in the playoffs, or B, move to a different team. Both options would have tarnished his legacy. Michael Jordan's playoff legacy was created for a Hollywood film. You couldn't have planned a better career if you tried, and this is why I believe Michael Jordan is the better playoff performer.